the absolute biggest mistake that I see early stage startups making is creating something that they think is cool rather than crucial. It's like a lot of them, they, especially in AI, you see they have what they believe is a phenomenal product idea, which it very well might be, but there's no necessarily market data to back that up. So it's kind of the reverse of how things should be working when you start a company. Is first you identify a market gap, a market need, and then you develop the product to fill that need.
Welcome to another amazing episode of the Tech Business Roundtable podcast, brought to you by Equa.tech, the leader in digital marketing for tech companies. We want to first take a moment to thank you for sharing this podcast with your friends and on social media and helping us grow week after week. Meet our host of today's TBR episode, Ryan Davies. Ryan is the Director of Marketing of Equa.tech and is a dynamic leader in driving business transformation through technology. Over to you, Ryan.
Welcome, everyone, to the Tech Business Roundtable podcast show. This is a podcast show dedicated to shining a spotlight on tech innovators, entrepreneurs, founders, and the compelling narratives behind the movements that they've established. I'm your host, Ryan Davies, and I'm hosting today's discussion on navigating tech startup waters, a CEO's guide to early stage success with Olga Topchaya. Olga, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
I think this is going to be amazing. I mean, your background is incredible for this topic, and it's perfect for our audience. For our listeners, Olga is the founder and CEO at Lapis AI Consults and specializes in aiding early stage startups and SMBs for embracing AI and for innovation and growth. After a vibrant decade-long journey in diverse marketing roles, she's transitioned into the AI domain with a career focused on collaborating with startups and SMBs. Olga possesses an intimate understanding of their unique needs, and that inspired her to establish Lapis. And she currently enjoys the equally rewarding role of being a new first-time parent with running a business. It's really running two very different things there, isn't it? But somehow at the same time, both require all of your time and attention and energy. So I think that's incredible. And I'd love to just kind of dive right in here a little bit to talk about sort of AI innovation and how, you're really able to help, different organizations and different people guide that through those early stages and into startup success. What I'd love to know, help color up that background a bit more for me, and what led you to found Lapis Consults and inspired you to focus on kind of assisting at this level.
Sounds good. So how I got here, I had to go on parental leave way earlier than I thought. And then by the time I got back, I was coming back in just like the worst tech recession since the early 2000s. So I decided, okay, instead of me just, sending out a bunch of resumes, and hearing nothing, and, it's not going to happen, right? Like we all know hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people are being let go. Like, all right, let me take a beat here and like hang out with my baby. And it was at that time that I discovered AI, generative AI specifically. It was before the ChatGPT boom. At that point, I think it was GPT-3, early version of GPT-3. And I kind of fell in love. I was like, this is amazing. What is this technology? How come nobody knows about this? What? Businesses aren't using it. Why? So I just kind of delved into really intense self-study. Anything I can learn about the technology, talking to people, joining Discord groups. My husband's an engineer, so talk his ear off to find out what is this. That led to my gig as a prompt engineer. It was a short-term contract for an AI company. Followed by that, that's when ChatGPT came out and it just exploded the world, obviously. And I landed another contract at an AI company, but this time focusing more on the product and go-to-market aspect. So applying my marketing background and my understanding of product. And from there, I ended up getting another gig, and that kind of like, all right, well, now it's time for an official announcement. And I paired up with a team of just like really phenomenal AI engineers. Over the course of my self-study, I had developed quite a bit of connections with engineers. So it was already, the stage had been set to now fill in that technical gap that I was missing. So I had the business aspect, the product, go to market and marketing, and they are able to assist with actually building the products. So how we help businesses, it's full service. As I mentioned, we can build a product for businesses that are interested in leveraging their own domain expertise to roll out something new with AI. I can help them just integrate AI into their operations, into their processes, understand what aspects of their job or their company can be automated. Just trainings as well. People really, I realize, don't know that much about AI, even the ones that do know about AI. And then for small businesses and startups that really want to take their product more to market, that's where I can help them as well.
I love that. That's I think a perfect kind of introduction into what you do, and I'd love to dig a little bit deeper right at that point. With early stage startups, let's talk. I mean, the challenges are kind of countless, right? There's so many things that they're doing, and they're trying to balance everything, right? And I think that's, again, what you can bring to the table. I'd love to get your impression on, some of maybe the common hurdles that you've observed for these early stage startups. And because you specialize in this, how to integrate AI from pre-seed through like kind of all the way up, how AI could really kind of help address some of these challenges.
So the absolute biggest mistake that I see early stage startups making is creating something that they think is cool rather than crucial. It's like a lot of them, they, especially in AI, you see they have what they believe is a phenomenal product idea, which it very well might be, but there's no necessarily market data to back that up. So it's kind of the reverse of how things should be working when you start a company. Is first you identify a market gap, a market need, and then you develop the product to fill that need. A lot of startups I see just kind of going about it the other way. They develop a product and then they try to figure out who would want that product. For some companies it works, but for most it doesn't. There's a couple of essentially like exercises that you can run in yourself, very quick tips I can give you. So for example, you can run an immediate relief test. What that means is if your product was aiming to solve some kind of a problem, what immediate relief would the customer feel? Okay? If it's automated customer support, will it reduce their customer service wait times? Right? That's an immediate relief. You can look at the day in a life scenario. How are people going to be using this product on a daily basis? If you're like building a health monitor, don't just like list out its features, but what solution, what problem is it solving? And there's a bunch of these, little tests that you can kind of run through to make sure that the product isn't just a cool product, but it is actually going to stick around because it's something that people need. It's going to help them solve some kind of a problem. And how AI can come into play is there's a lot of ways, but market research is a big one. It's now you can connect your own data, you can connect various APIs to start making those analyses. Right, so you're not just relying on the large language model itself. You can actually connect it and start generating real insights. What are people saying? What do they need? What are the issues that they're being faced with? So market research is really a big one, even just from the get-go. You can create very customized personal messaging in trying to reach out to early users. And if you're really early, you're looking to get funding, then some of the things that investors are going to look at, they're going to look at the team, who are the people that are actually running the company, creating the company, but they're really going to be looking at usage and engagement and recurring engagement. So you want to pick people carefully who are really going to fit that need. So you're not just wasting your time trying to go after people that are not going to do anything for you. And you would probably start with an early alpha launch. I wouldn't even call it a beta launch because this is the part where you're really trying to hone in on your MVP and focusing on those core offerings instead of trying to include this feature and that feature. And I see, companies get stuck in this endless feature phase as opposed to go and ship, right? Like build the thing, ship it, and then iterate. And that is going to get you much faster to a solid product because then you're going to have the customer feedback. So really distinguishing the MVP from a full-on product platform. And this is all for tech. I'm not really talking as much about small businesses. They have a different, operation and business model and everything.
Right.
So we're only sticking to that side of my clients and companies I'm dealing with. But depending on your product, you might have a very, very high ticket item, in which case you maybe need less users to show engagement, or you might have a lower ticket item. And so in that case, you're going to need to bring on more users. But to get those early users, you can start with just within your own team, within your own network. You can use AI to create those customized messages. You can use it to help you create your ideal customer personas after that. It's become really, really great at answering questions and offering advice. Didn't realize that it would get there so fast, but in many ways, you can definitely do it, and especially if you're solid in prompt engineering, and that's something that we also help with. You can program it, right, to behave in a certain way. You can give it some baseline information to help you develop those customer personas, navigate that area. And then just automate things. You're doing a million things. I'll give you an example. When I was starting my company, part of the reason I was able to get up and running so quickly is because I went and created a website using AI. And it was fast. It wasn't perfect. It was far from perfect, right? But it was done. It was done, and it was done within 15 minutes. And then from there, I was like, okay, you can add this image and add that image and this page, and it's better. But I had something. I had a face, quote unquote, right? I wasn't just, Olga Topchaya, right? It was Lapis Consult, and we had a team, and we have a product description that we can send potential clients to, not just my LinkedIn profile. So these are some of the kind of things, when you're really early stage, you'll have probably more resources as you get farther along. But a lot of things, you can also have less resources now. So you don't necessarily need to have a team of 10 engineers. You now have Copilot, so they can do their work faster, right? You can hire maybe even like some of them can be less experienced depending on your needs. In like our case, I actually need very highly experienced engineers because AI is a new field. They all specialize in AI. So my case is a little bit different. But some other companies, maybe you don't need, 10 like mid-level or entry-level engineers. You can hire a couple of solid engineers and they'll do their work for 10 engineers using Copilot. So again, these are just some examples. I can probably talk for hours and hours about this. So
I was going to say, I mean, like there's so many that you could go, we could continue to kind of dive through. And I was going to, basically say like, are there specific areas where AI tends to give the most impact for startups? But, I think you've talked a lot about that. Maybe what we could shift to is, so how do you see, optimally how startups can strategically adopt AI in their operations and, to foster growth and product development and all of these areas? Like you said, I guess it depends on the stage where you're at though, right? Like if you're pre-seed, it's a very different story than somebody who's in Series A or further in terms of that conversation.
Exactly. It really needs to start with an assessment. What is your baseline? What are your goals? Where can you improve? What part of your job do you hate that you wish a magic genie could just take and do for you? That's a great place to start. Now it has to be virtual. I can't make your ice cream. But, what part of your job do you hate that maybe is just super tedious? And that's a question that I often will ask my clients who don't really know what they want to do, but they know they want to do something, right?
Yeah.
So it has to start just with a basic assessment. As part of things, that we do, which is, part of the reason we don't like go and build out our own product, and we instead help businesses build their products, because every business is going to be so different.
Yeah, so you can't help me with going to get fresh coffee in between I'm recording or anything else, right? Okay, fair enough. But the rest of it, exactly. There's a long list of things where you'd say, boy, this could help. It saves time, it saves costs, like soft costs, hard costs, all of that.
Yeah.
Right? So I know that's a big thing, right? Startups, limited resources, you're trying to build in-house capabilities. But if you're trying to even build in AI capabilities, that can be daunting, right? So do you recommend, again, I know this is exactly what Lapis does, is help navigate the process to be able to make the most of AI external, solutions and things like that. For somebody who's even wondering where they can get started, like you said, that baseline, what does that look like? Is there a checklist that you typically use, something along that? Again, don't give away your secret recipe. That's what you do, right? but is there sort of that, this is how you recognize where you can go?
So I like to start with understanding what their familiarity is with AI. You can do kind of like a self-assessment, on like how advanced do you feel you are in prompt engineering, right? Do you know what chain of thought reasoning is? Do you know what meta prompting is? Plenty of people do. Many people don't, right? For many people, they don't even know some of the basic things that AI can do. So they will use it only for like content creation. Right? So really look within yourself and begin asking, what do you know? And what maybe are you missing? Then you can go on to ChatGPT or Anthropic, which is getting much better now, and start a conversation and see, what does it think that maybe areas that you can improve your own self-learning. From there, you can look into training, AI training courses. I would be very cautious with anyone who's going to say you're going to make $10,000 in 10 minutes and here's 10 lessons to do it.
Yeah.
So stay away from like those YouTubers. There's going to be a lot of those, and the way that you can figure out if a person is really going to offer you quality training or not is they're going to show you both the not just the prompt, right? So they're going to show you the input and the output. So right now, what you're going to see is 100 best prompts that, I don't know who came up with these things, and they look very reasonable and, great ideas, but what is the input? What is the output? Right. So those are ways that you can get started to even just begin to explore. Ask ChatGPT, what can you do? Right? What are you capable of? Go and look at recently OpenAI made some new announcements, right? So see what these big dogs are announcing and what the capabilities are. Amazon, OpenAI, and Anthropic, and Google Bard, all very recently released very advanced capabilities that a month ago or so were just, not only did I not think that we would be able to do it, but like there were whole entire companies based on creating these kind of services. Right. So those are some ways that that you can get started.
And I think given the diversity of startups and different business models and things like that, do you recommend customized AI strategies for different industries and stages of growth? Like I'm assuming, again, from your expertise, it's not a one size fits all, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. You can use like, other companies' experiences for inspiration, which is always great. But it has to be a customized strategy. There's almost like no even best practices, because it's so new, right? If, we go back to like marketing, which I was doing for a while, at least, that also is going to be obviously customized to every company, but you will have like some best practices, right? Here, there are no really like sustainable best practices, right? What's a best practice today does not apply 2-3 weeks from now. So it has to be very fluid. You have to accept the fact that whatever it is you're going to do now is going to be different in a month. If you want to play in this game, you need to be flexible. And that I think is where early stage startups and small businesses are actually really uniquely positioned. Because they can just change in a moment's notice. They're not, they don't have responsibilities to all these shareholders and being, I mean, it's just, obviously you have like 100 people that need to make a decision, before a single email can get sent out. So I think in that way, startups are really going to soar if they can embrace that flexibility.
Yeah, I think it's always the hardest thing, right? Is change management, and that, like you said, when it's a startup, the smaller you are, the easier it is to change something and pivot on a whim or on a dime, or because you see something. Pretty hard to say we're implementing this and we're going to go and this is going to affect 1,500 people in a company, and we'll hope it works. And if it doesn't, well, you can't really backtrack and get the adoption and everything else. So that's just incredibly crucial from that perspective. I think one of the big things, again, for our tech business audience here, a lot of them, again, they're involved in tech. They understand it. This is their world, but there's still this, kind of fear mongering going on around the ethical considerations that AI brings and all of that. And I think that's probably part of the reason why some people might be hesitant to bring it in. But like that's crucial. So how do you guide startups to ensure this responsible and ethical use of the AI technologies in their products and services and what they're looking to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really glad that you brought that up. So I will start with saying that there is now new legislation that has given some guidance. And Europe passed their own act, and the Biden administration, U.S. here, passed the executive order. You can feed it into ChatGPT and have it give you a summary. So it's a start, right? But it's only a start. A lot of it, when you read it, is like, okay, we plan to have a plan, kind of thing.
Right.
So it's a start. And for ethical purpose, it's essentially anything that's ethical. Do no harm, right? That's how you can summarize all the ethical. Do no harm. So you can take certain precautions to eliminate biases if you're creating your own product. So there's a methodology called retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, in which case you can feed your own documents into it. You can say, okay, respond like this. This is what I want you to say. This is what I want you to do, using only this knowledge base, right? And if you don't know, say you don't know. So that is now a methodology that is available to us that was not necessarily available beforehand, right? Being transparent with users on how you are, using their data, right? If you are collecting any kind of data. And that we already, are, I think, companies are already more accustomed to it, over the last few years that we had GDPR and CCPA, right? We have all those, laws already in place. So keep, thinking about that, right? It's the same kind of mindset. To be completely blunt, will AI take some jobs? Yes, it will.
Yep.
It's more likely going to take jobs from people that are not very good at their job, but the people who are good at their job, who can make use of the technology, they're going to be just so much better because they can do so much more. You want your employees to know how to use the technology, because then you can make them better. You can guide self-development. You can guide better decision-making. That's great, right? Like that's great for business. You just being able to do more. And then in terms of the fear aspect, which is completely understandable, like this technology, it was just almost like sprung upon us and we had no warning in a way, right? Like except for the people that were in AI, and so it just got so quick, and just like exponential evolution. It's completely understandable that people are afraid. But one way that I urge people to think about, and I actually just co-authored an article on this, like yesterday it was published, is a parent-child framework. Now, I'm not, not to say AI is, in any way sentient or anything like that. No, that's not the case.
That's a whole other series of episodes.
That's a whole, yeah. We're not doing that. It's only for a practical way of how you can think about the technology. It's not your nemesis, right? It's a thing that we created and that we need to be responsible in, quote unquote, raising, right? It's been in the process for a long time. The catalyst, right? This boom happened only recently, but AI and ML has been around for a very long time, right? So kind of keeping that in mind, that it's an evolution. It's an evolution that, was very deliberate. And we are, we have to be responsible in using it, and developers have to be responsible in developing it, right? Just like a parent, right? You are responsible for the thing that you make, and if you're not acting responsibly, then like CPS is going to come after
Yeah,
you.
yeah. And
Right.
it's nearly impossible to undo something where you've made, when you've pushed it too far, right?
Right. So kind of, I think adapting this framework where you're viewing it as something that you've made, that can help you, right? That's a partner, or a child, a progeny, right? It's not a nemesis, right?
Right.
I think maybe will help eliminate some of the fear. And yes, keep in mind, it's not sentient. It's not, by any means, it doesn't have the emotions or anything, right? It can simulate things, but we are not at a point of AGI. We probably will be, but we're not there right now.
Right. Yeah.
With the technology as it stands, right?
Uh,
Sorry?
I think that's pretty. I think it leads into a great kind of outro question here as we're kind of shifting towards the end of the episode. Is what role do you foresee AI playing in the future of startups, right? And really, how can early stage companies best prepare to continue to integrate AI into the business landscape?
So I will refrain completely from making any kind of predictions in this realm. It is impossible.
Yep.
Even the big dogs don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And we're probably fairly close to AGI, that much I can say. But beyond that, I don't know. The best way to prepare is to plan for change. So, and, I guess assume that whatever it is that you're doing right now can at a moment's notice be something completely different. And when that happens, how are you going to react? You're going to react with panic, right? Or are you going to take a step back and then start thinking, okay, cool. Now, how do I use this to my advantage? Right. I really do urge companies to not adopt a business model where everything that they do is only reliant on AI. That I think is very dangerous, because then you don't control your product. It means you don't control your business. So I would say establish your domain. Right. If your domain is in construction, in like tech, right, on the tech side, right, or like automation. If your domain is in health tech, if your domain is, fintech, right, that's where you're playing in, and start thinking, how can I shift that business side? E-com is also like a great example, right? If
Yep.
things are beginning to change, you see where the winds are blowing a little bit, right? You see that things are kind of going in the like assistant side, right? So start planning for change in whatever scenario that may be.
I think that's perfect advice to kind of close off on here. And I would love to just at the very end here, get people to be able to connect with you. Again, we've got a lot of, being a tech business roundtable, we've got a ton of founders. We even have VCs and information on that, all of that, how to connect with you and really, help navigate those startup waters that we've been talking about and make sure that their early stages turn into, the next success story.
So going to the website, lapisconsults.com, or going to LinkedIn. Probably my personal LinkedIn is going to get you the fastest response, which is Olga Topchaya. Like the only Olga Topchaya, ending with a YA on there. So you can reach out to me directly, or even send me an email at olga@lapisconsults.com.
Perfect. I think we're going to have some people taking advantage of that for sure here. And it's just that easy. She's the only one. It's easy to find. And I mean, so much great advice there for you to be able to take and, again, find that baseline, start to deploy it, make scalability faster, easier, with lower cost, everything that we're looking for that I think startups are so desperate to be able to do to keep up and stay ahead. So Olga, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your information. Like we said, I think a couple of times we could do a whole podcast on this episode. So we might have to have a whole new, we will just get you your own podcast. There's the next strategy, is to do that. And we'll have you doing that. So that's perfect. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you.
Excellent. So I want to thank Olga again for this amazing podcast on navigating tech startup waters, a CEO's guide to early stage success. Really took a deep dive into how AI is going to be able to, again, help level you up, help you scale up, and take away those things, again, like you said, the genie that you'd love to get rid of, but do all of the things that the startups crave to be able to do to get ahead. So thank you for that. And I also want to thank our listeners. We can't do what we do without you. So until we meet again with another amazing TBR episode, I'm your host, Ryan Davies. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you, Ryan, for this amazing episode. Thank you for joining us on the Tech Business Roundtable podcast. We hope our discussions have sparked new ideas, expanded your knowledge, and empowered you on your entrepreneurial journey. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and write us a positive review. Thank you for listening to the Tech Business Roundtable podcast show.